welcome back. If you decided to come back after listening to our last episode.
Well, I mean, it was, an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. I think we were really, the biggest thing we were trying to. Okay. Aw, Butters is trying to get comfortable, and maybe we should take a picture and post this with
I don't know.
the episode.
With my feet in there?
Yeah.
Oh.
He moved, of course. So the last episode was Kyle's episode, Kid Problems.
Yeah, we made an attempt to pull him into the podcast, see if he wanted to, do something with us. So.
Yeah, and he was sick as well, so we didn't really say that, but he, not that he would have been more animated. I don't know, it depends on the day, I guess, but we were trying to talk to him a little bit more about his feelings and how he feels, and does he get nervous, and what does that look like? A lot of what he shared had to do with baseball, because that's his main thing. I think we learned a lot from that conversation. Like, I didn't know that he has some self-discipline where he was like, if I don't make it, I give myself consequences.
Yeah, but I wonder, I've never seen him run polls, but I wonder if that's something new, or maybe he does tell himself that,
Yeah.
I was surprised to hear that too. It's interesting after having that conversation with him, and it was almost like trying to help him understand his feelings. And then I got to thinking, like, well, kids probably don't really, like, they're not self-aware, they're not conscious of it. It's like they go through all these feelings and they just happen. They don't really stop and process them. Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah.
So, because I almost felt like a counselor trying to get him to talk about stuff or bring it out. But then I got to thinking, it's like, well, kids in general probably don't can't really comprehend all these different emotions and feelings that are going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they do have a hard time understanding what it is that they're feeling, which I think makes puberty so much more confusing, because you don't understand what it is that you're feeling, and you don't think that anybody else is feeling this except for you, and that's absolutely not true. Everybody's feeling all kinds of stuff.
Or they just don't know, or they don't realize that they can work themselves through a negative feeling and have a different outcome.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of adults that don't realize that either. If you hear squeaking, it's Butters' toy.
Yeah. He got a scary bear, aka Scare Bear. It's a little black nylon bear that has a skeleton, like a green face and green skeleton on his body. Alex could not resist.
Yeah. I'm surprised he tore it up. So if you hear that, that's him. But yeah, so there's things he's told me before, like during the season, we'd be down in the basement practicing with the wiffle ball, and he would tell me, like, I get nervous when I get up to bat and there's like 2 outs, or I have 2 strikes, or it's towards the end of the game. And I was surprised that he told me that, but I kind of tell him, well, that's a good thing, because being nervous isn't like, it's a natural emotion. It means that you're not overly confident, or does that make sense? So, but you also don't want to have the other end of the spectrum where you get so nervous that you're like shaking and fearful. Yeah. Like a little bit of like butterflies and being nervous is good. It keeps you honest. So
yeah, and pushes you. Yeah. As an adult, and I start feeling those feelings when I feel nervous about something, or like, let's say with work, feel nervous about something and I'm not sure how I'm going to move through it. You get to that point where you're like, okay, well, I'm either going to not move forward, or I'm going to push myself to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to have that conscious decision. I usually say I'm going to go ahead and push through and figure it out, because I want to. I'm more competitive, like with myself, than I am other people.
Well, I think a lot of times doing the opposite of what you're feeling, like the opposite positive, nervousness, anxiety, all that stuff is fear based. And a lot of times it's irrational fear. It's not really rational. There's a lot of times that has to do with lack of control, lack of being able to control the outcome. So then you start, your mind just starts racing, or you're trying to find a way to control something that's not controllable. So I guess sometimes it can be beneficial to tell yourself the opposite of the negative thing you're feeling and just keep telling yourself that. And then a lot of times that can get you out of that panic or that anxiety or worry if you just tell yourself the positive stuff.
So that kind of goes back to the affirmations that you were talking about. You've mentioned that in several episodes.
Yeah.
That affirmations have been helpful for you.
Yeah. We're probably up to almost a year of doing the podcast, right?
Getting close.
Yeah. So us doing this is kind of reminding me of some of those old techniques of this stuff I used to do when I was really first getting sober and really trying to learn how to live life again. I've been sober for almost 22 years and I haven't been in AA for a while, so I tend to forget like a lot of those simple things that you can do to really make things easier on yourself. But yeah, affirmations, and it's replacing those old tapes. There's a lot of times, not everybody, but we got those old tapes that we play, like you're not good enough, you're stupid, you're worthless, and it's like a tape that just keeps playing in our subconscious because we either were told that when we were younger, or we told ourselves that, or we believe that, and it's not true. So you kind of gotta you can't let those tapes keep playing in your subconscious. You gotta consciously tell yourself something different that's positive.
Yeah, change your mindset.
Yeah.
And that's helpful in all areas of life too, whether it's work or personal relationships, or the relationship with yourself. Like you were just saying, we have those situations where we embed a narrative from somewhere, it could be something that was offered to us or something that we just offered ourselves that isn't true. I guess it's true if you want it to be true, right?
Yeah, you tell yourself enough, you start to believe it.
Yeah, you start to believe it. And if you offer yourself a different way of thinking, a mindset change, a concept change, a new way of believing, then it offers you something different. And it can go both ways. You can have a positive mindset and it can switch to a negative one, or vice versa.
What, like if you keep telling yourself like I'm stupid or you're a screw up, or then it's But that's the thinking about it now, like, and having Kyle on the episode last time, like if we're practicing baseball and we'll be at the field and he'll be hitting and he keeps like fouling it off, or he keeps popping it up, he'll get frustrated with himself and like tell himself like stuff, you know what I mean, like
say something negative to himself.
Like why can't you do better? I can't think, but it's it's negative energy. Yeah. So, and that does, you might not think anything of it, you're kind of like being frustrated with yourself, but that does, if you keep telling yourself that and keep doing that, it's going to spiral and get worse or snowball. That's what I was trying to get at with him last week, was like, if you're in a situation, it's more beneficial to encourage yourself. Because if you keep messing up or making a mistake and you keep telling yourself like you're sucking, you're horrible, then it's going to be really hard to get out of that funk. And we all get in funks. So
we do. And that is so true. Why do you think, though, it is so much easier to believe those negative things than the positive things? Or the narratives?
Maybe in some way it's letting you not take full response. Even though you're blaming yourself, it's like it's easier to cut yourself down than to take like full responsibility. I I don't know, like somehow it's got to be an easier way out. Does that make sense? Like somehow it's got to be like easier to cut yourself down than to like pull yourself up and admit like, okay, I'm playing like crap, but I know I'm better than this.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's just an easier way out.
I think that's a great point. It's an easier way out.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it probably is easier just to
Well, I
cut your
suck. I can't. I
yeah.
suck. So that means I can't actually do it. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, why even try? Or see, I
Mm-hmm.
can't. There's my proof,
Or
you know.
or there's just no explanation. Like I don't know why I'm not hitting the ball good. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't really explain it because sometimes things just don't go your way.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing to do is be like, well, I just suck.
Right.
So
And so many of us say that to ourselves, and we logically know that's not true,
yeah.
but the more we lean into that narrative, the more it's going to become the narrative. So I think another thing that happens when we say positive things to ourselves, if we're telling people that we're saying positive things, we're afraid we're going to get pushback. Like if someone says, depending on who it is that you're around, you might say, well, I believe that I can do it. Well, what makes you believe you can do that?
Mm-hmm.
Or what makes you think you're so much better than everybody else? Or what makes you think that you deserve that or can do something different or whatever. I think we're afraid to get that pushback from other people too.
Maybe. Um, but I feel like there's also like there's a difference between in like believing in yourself and having faith in yourself and then being believing in yourself and being full of pride and just thinking that you're like amazing. Wouldn't you say there's a difference in the two?
Yeah, like maybe
Like
being
being cocky, like
Mhm.
one is like being super cocky and the other one's like having faith in yourself that you can do it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if I agree with that reaction or not from other people. Have you had that happen?
Yeah.
You have.
Mm-hmm.
Which well, I guess yeah. I mean, I could see that maybe if you're in competition with someone, um, but that's a pretty I don't know what how I describe. I was gonna say that's a pretty sour behavior from someone to
Yeah,
like. It almost sounds like high school stuff, but so.
does. Yeah, no, I've received that, sharing, hey, I want to do this. This is, something that I think I want to explore and getting pushback of that's dumb or why do you want to do that or why can't you just be happy with where you're at?
Mm-hmm. So
Stuff like, I mean, those specific words
mm-hmm.
instead of if there was actually maybe something else behind that they were concerned about instead of connecting with that,
Mm-hmm.
saying things that made me feel like I shouldn't want to grow and explore and
Or
move
be
forward.
yourself.
Be myself, yes, in general.
So you you express to someone like this is who I am and I believe that I'm good at this or I believe this is what I want. Someone completely shuts you down with like negative
Yes.
affirmation. So then that I mean that's an example of like then you internalize that and maybe subconsciously you start telling yourself what you heard them say.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's those tapes or those in the back of your mind, like you might think about something, but then if you think about like, man, I really want to take this path in my life, and then in the back of your mind, you keep thinking about what that person said. It's like, well, why would you want to do that? That's stupid.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that could be something else too, is trying not to like bury it. I mean, you hear it and it might hurt, but then trying to let go of it and trying not to internalize it because we internalize that stuff and then it sticks with us and we kind of carry that messaging with us.
I personally think that's why so many of us are unhappy in our life because the decisions that we've made are not our own decisions. They're decisions that are based on what our family, our friends, society, organizations that we're involved in have offered us as this is the way to do it.
Yeah.
When we're young, we don't know what to do. So it's like, just tell me what to do, right? Or, okay, I'll go down this path, or I don't want to be ostracized from the group. So I'm going to follow this direction to make everybody feel comfortable and I'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think that so often that we don't really know ourselves. And so the decisions that we are making are for other people or based on other people's thought processes. And then we get to a point where we're like, boy, my life doesn't feel good. Well, it doesn't feel good because you didn't choose a life for you. You chose a life for somebody else.
Yeah, that's a good point. And maybe we reach a point in our life where we're, like a lot of people, middle age or whatever, get to a point where they're just not happy and they, that I'm going to do some soul searching, but maybe that's the reason why is because, like you just said, we haven't really been living a life for ourselves. We've just been kind of pulled into these other directions. It's taken us places but we're really not internally happy. But I think we can get throughout life with that. We internalize all this stuff and don't realize it, and don't realize that it's things that kind of affect our thoughts daily.
Yeah.
Like something in our childhood or at some point in our life, like someone said something or did something, and it kind of like, it's almost like it created a new neural pathway in our brain, and it just, that light bulb's always there.
Yeah. Going back to that, sometimes oftentimes we choose a life that's not necessarily our own. A friend of mine and I were talking the other day, and she said, I know this sounds crazy, but I didn't know that I had a choice whether or not to have kids. I said, well, what do you mean? She's like, I didn't know that I had a choice. I thought that's just what you did. And so if you got married, then you had kids. And
it's like what you're supposed to do.
Right, what you're supposed to do. Whether or not she would have made the same choice, but she was just saying, I didn't know that I had a choice.
Yeah.
And I think she would have liked to have known that she had a choice.
Well, that's interesting, yeah.
Or felt like she had the choice. And so that's just another example of societal expectations and individual expectations. And who knows, her and her husband may or may not have even had a conversation about it because it was just like, well, that's
this
what you
do. This is what we do,
yeah.
I don't want to say like, a lot of times we don't make these decisions. They're just kind of like there and we go with it, which is probably true. But I also feel like, does that necessarily mean that we're not on the path that we're supposed to be on? I feel like even though like it wasn't my plan to get caught up in drugs and alcohol and have a bunch of bad trips and end up in mental institutions and suicide attempts. But that path that, granted, thank God I'm where I'm at today, but I don't see my life being any better if I wouldn't have went down that path. So it's like, yeah, like maybe the path that we've been on or the different paths haven't been necessarily like what we wanted to do, but maybe that's like the direction we need to go to get us to figure out what does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So it's
I don't think there's
complicated.
Right or wrong.
Yeah.
I don't think there's right or wrong. They're just choices.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that there's still, to your point, there's still that path that you're on to say, do whatever you came here to accomplish or experience whatever it is that you came here to experience. There's always free will. There's always choice. But there's always something, I think, pulling us, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And we can say yes to it or we can say no to it. And I really don't think there are any right or wrong answers.
No.
You know, whatever choice you make, you learn a lot from those decisions and those detours, those paths, those secondary paths,
Hmm.
that support the main direction or pull that you're on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like sometimes you go this way because you're supposed to meet this person and interact, and either it's kind of you're there to help them, and they are there to help you, and then
Mm-hmm.
once that's done, it kind of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, shift in another direction, and maybe same thing happens. So without getting into like, because I don't believe there's like a being up there controlling us, but it is. I feel like we do throughout life where there's a reason why we're put in people's lives or situations. I don't feel like that stuff just happens on accident.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We kind of got off on
Mm-hmm.
a whole different tangent, but talking about how messaging, whether it be societal or in our family lives when growing up, or
Mm-hmm.
how that kind of affects us, and then the decisions that we make.
Well, it can also affect those narratives that we have, like going
Mm.
back to what we were talking
Yeah.
about. Even the things that we see in our families and the people and organizations that we're around, we witness what other people are doing as well. And I think that can affect us too. As much as we are affected by specific things, I think we can be affected by the things that we're not necessarily directly affected by, but we notice specific behaviors and we can say, I'd like to incorporate that behavior, or I would not like to incorporate
Mm-hmm.
that behavior. Can you think of any of those times growing up that you thought, oh, yeah, I'd like to be more like that, or I'd like to strive to be that way, or vice versa?
Well, I don't like, that'd be something I have to think about. I can think about like sports, like
Mm-hmm.
watching Dennis Rodman play basketball. And when I got into playing basketball, like I knew I wasn't like a strong offensively skilled person. I was tall and like not very coordinated, but I could jump. So I seen Dennis Rodman's game where he was like a strong rebounder and a big defensive presence, and I kind of like modeled my game after him. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I guess like as a sports thing, that's kind of similar,
For
like,
sure.
or an example, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure there's other stuff too, but that's the thing. I think like growing up, you really don't think about this stuff. I feel like I don't. I think it's hard to open your mind to start thinking about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like I never thought about this stuff until I got sober, or messed around with LSD or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you were thinking about like emotions and feelings and connection when you were a kid or an adolescent or teenager. Probably not. Maybe you were, but
I think I was more than other
yeah.
people my age. Yes.
For me, it took like tragedy and pain to get me to that point, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I am under the impression that for most people, it takes something very catastrophic or pain to get them to like open their mind and see things differently.
Mm-hmm.
But you're a different example where you're kind of like wired that way naturally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are lots of different ways to get to that same.
Yeah.
I think you're right. There are a lot of experiences to opening up that start with tragedy and pain.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And for me, I always felt connection was always important. There was just a constant depth of feeling and thinking that I just always remember being there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I never felt like I could connect to anyone
Yeah,
very
you
well.
felt different.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which I mean, that's not surprising that someone who I guess you could say, is enlightened or self-aware could feel even more isolated and empty because they feel like they don't fit in or people don't understand them. And it's not just about like, oh, become self-aware because it'll just make you more spiritual. But I think it's about like, it's about knowing what makes you tick, knowing how things affect you, knowing how you affect other people is a big one too. Because a lot of times people are not aware how they come off to other people or affect other people. So it's not about being like zen and like, oh, I'm so much more spiritual than you, and I'm so in touch with everything more than you are. It's not about that. It's just about being able to navigate your way through life, understanding yourself, understanding how to deal and get through situations, and also trying to be like as considerate to other people as you can.
Mm-hmm. And we're all teachers.
Mm.
I think that's one of the things we were talking about this the other day too with a friend of mine. I I feel like that might be one of the reasons I have some feelings about organized religion is because of the hierarchy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Setup,
Yeah.
right? That this person is better than the other person, or this person knows more, and you have to go through them to be, to have a relationship with source or God or whatever it is. And I don't believe that I believe that we're all learning from each other,
Yeah.
I might know more in this area, but you might know more in that area, and I need to grow in that area, and maybe you need to grow in this area that I know more about, but we're all sharing knowledge and all sharing information. That hierarchical relationship of you need me or you need the priest to get to a higher level of spirituality or to God themselves, that just seems
Wrong.
so not right to
Wrong to you.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because God, source, whatever it is in all of us.
Well,
We are
yeah. Mm-hmm.
expressions of that energy. And to say that I can't access a relationship with my source of everything on my own is ridiculous to
Yeah.
me. To me.
Well, and I guess I don't know how to put into words, but I agree with you. I think it is like, you can't really, I think that's the thing. I think spirituality is more about like people and environment, and it's, well, I guess it can be yourself too, but yeah, you do feed off each other and you learn from each other, and it's, I don't know. While you were saying that, and this was like, I think this was something I learned in CCD or something, or church, or the story of like the flood. There's a flood, and the guy like gets on his roof, and someone comes by and offers him like, come on, let's go. And he's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh no, God said he's gonna come save me. And it
Mm-hmm.
happens like 3 times, and then he drowns
Mm-hmm.
and sees God, and he's like, you said you were gonna come save me. And God's like, I sent 3 people to come save you.
Right.
So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's,
And I love that story. I've heard
yeah.
that story too. I love that story because that's an expression of God is everywhere.
Hmm.
God is supporting you everywhere, and you never know how that's going to look. And
Yeah. No.
to be open to that, to life and wonder in a way that is expansive.
Hmm.
You're going to see.
Well, and it's not just in like powerful spiritual teachings either. Sometimes it's holding the door open for someone, or grabbing something off the top shelf for someone at the grocery store. It's not all about
I
like,
couldn't do
well, you couldn't, but maybe
that.
something on the bottom shelf. But it's not all like passing on big like spiritual knowledge or a big revelation. It's just like those little things are the things that make people feel good.
Right.
And that can change their whole day.
Yeah.
Like doing little stuff like that, really, it can. And that's the most important thing, because someone could be having a really bad day and feeling like giving up, or just feeling like, what's the point? and then someone does something really nice, like I can't think of any examples other than holding a door open, or like,
But those
but
are,
those like change someone's day
Yeah.
in a heartbeat, and that's more important than like someone listening to this podcast.
Mhm.
And you know, there's little everyday things are the things that make a difference in people's lives.
Mhm. Make people feel connected to other people.
Yeah, feel good.
To know, to have an expression, a physical expression of, you're not doing this alone. We're not doing this, alone.
Or that there is kindness in the world,
Yeah.
or there are nice people in the world. People do care. There's
Right.
just, I don't know, it's just sometimes there's little things that make you feel good. Like if someone does that for you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of the old thing, you know. It's like an AA principle. The most powerful thing is when one person is helping another. And why? Like, and that's the whole basis of AA, like one person helping another person without, asking for payment or without a selfish motive. And that's a spiritual principle, and for whatever reason it works. It makes you feel better. That's what helps you stay sober. And why? Who knows, other than the fact that it's just spiritual principle. I guess I can't really explain it. It's just
Connection.
Yeah, you're doing something unselfishly, and you're helping someone, and in return it's helping you. It's like
the law of reciprocity.
Yeah, we kind of got on a different track.
We did. So what all did we talk about?
I don't know. We started off talking about dealing with stressful situations. We're talking about Kyle, but I guess going back to like his episode, and it would be so nice to be able to help adolescents and teenagers kind of like understand or open up their mind a little bit to this, so they don't have to figure this out when they're in their 30s.
Yeah.
And it's probably so hard for them to really comprehend, being self-aware and processing their feelings and emotions and learning how to react differently. But it seems like a lot of times you don't figure this stuff out until later on in life. And it could be so beneficial for the younger people too, to just be like, hey, you can change your day at any moment. Like, you have these feelings, but that doesn't mean you have to act on them. If you're feeling scared, you're feeling nervous, there's things you can do to try to work through it.
Yeah.
So,
and just try it.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I'll tell Kyle, just take
it doesn't
take
work.
a few slow breaths. Yeah, it doesn't work. Well, if you try it, it might. Yeah. So, and just try it. Just try something different.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
Yeah, if you're doing the same thing and feeling the same way, it doesn't hurt to try something else.
You're right.
Unless you want to keep feeling that way, which you don't like.
Yeah.
Then I guess whatever.
I guess whatever. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No. We got on a few different tangents, but
well, I'll talk to you next time.
See ya.